This is Drop Tent Media Network.
Oh, we're here.
Kirsten, how do you feel today?
I feel better than I did a couple weeks ago. Not great. Still on the mend. I feel...
Describe to the people.
Okay.
What happens to you? Because as always, you're vague and say you're like, I'm fine. And your level of fine would kill most people.
I had a little cough.
A little tickle.
Turned into a big old cough. I got my usual cystic fibrosis sickness,
Right.
which is, it's very cyclical. It happens the same times of year every time. And I knew I was sick. I woke up one morning. I had a full day of things to do that day. And I was like, by the end of this will be my last day for a while.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to be sick and I'm going to be in the hospital within the next couple of days.
Do you think even if you hadn't pushed yourself, you still would?
Oh, yeah. It's written in stone.
Yeah.
There's nothing I can do. I'm just like waiting it out. And I'm like, this is my last day. And every hour I'm getting sicker. So I'm like trying to get stuff done early, you know, and I'm like.
And sicker means harder to breathe
Yeah.
for you, like slowing down.
Right.
Just lightheaded. Whatever.
It's like if you think about how you feel when you get like the flu or something, but how you slowly sort of every maybe day or every like half day, you start to be like, my throat has a little tickle. And then you're like, oh, actually, I think I have a sore throat. And it keeps getting worse. But it happens for me like every half hour. There's like a new benchmark of how sick I am. And then went to bed and woke up that next morning and was like, oh, I'm really sick. Had a really bad fever.
At
whatever.
that point, do you have oxygen at your house?
I do have oxygen at home. However, the hard part is the oxygen is not going to do anything until they can like clear out the mucus in my lungs because I can't, there's nowhere for the air to go basically.
Right.
I'm just like, and I do appreciate that since COVID, people do have more understanding of it because people experienced it for themselves now, but like that feeling like you're drowning in your own lungs.
Yeah.
And had to go, couldn't even, I was so sick, I was like, I couldn't even take an Uber to the hospital right now, which is a bad level of sick. So I had to take an ambulance, got to Jefferson. My brother works
I forgot about ambulances. My brain was like, oh, so your mom drove you? Like, you meant you needed help.
Yes, I needed assistance in the ride.
Right.
Yeah.
My brain was just like, you just didn't trust being in an Uber, like, in case you had a question.
I was like, I could not even wait to take an Uber, so I shot myself.
Yeah. I had to walk there.
Yeah.
Nothing worse than being in an Uber any kind of sick.
Oh, my God.
Not to downplay your death.
No, it's awful.
If you don't feel good, I cannot imagine having to call an Uber.
And I almost always will Uber. Usually my hierarchy is I will drive myself.
Yeah.
Unless it's really bad, then I will
Just
Uber.
like a quick shout out to all the Uber drivers that have driven her wheezy F baby over here to the hospital. Because I would be so scared as a driver to be like, are you okay when you're visibly...
Yeah. And they accept...
So you took the ambulance.
I took the ambulance. And if you think about it, yes, so many
You
Uber
called
drivers...
911 yourself?
No, I did not.
Okay.
But well, it depends. I will try, but if I can't breathe, then I'm out of luck. I'll just leave the phone. I'm
you called and you're like, what's your favorite scary movie?
Yeah, right. They love it. It crushes. And got to the ER, and on the ride there, like, my oxygen, so typically, like, really low oxygen for a healthy person would be, like, I don't know, 93 would be, like, for a healthy person, upsetting and not good.
I know we've talked about this, but what does that number mean? Like, what is that scale or percentage?
It's a percentage of blood oxygen in your blood, and it should be 100.
Okay, it should be 100. So low for a healthy, you said was even like low 90s.
Right, and every like number really counts, and so anything below 90 would be like an issue for most people, and like I would say the lowest mine ever gets when I'm really sick is like 88. And I got there day one.
Oh, no.
And it was 81. And they were all freaking out. And they were like, can we call somebody? And I was like, my brother is here, I think.
Oh, I thought you meant like, should they call another doctor?
Yeah.
Like, you tell me, guys.
I was like, yeah, I would push like 8 cc's of Epi if you guys could right now.
Yeah, what? Okay, so they met a family member.
Yeah. And I was like, my brother like is here. And can you just like call him? And they were like, yeah. And then they were like, oh, your brother's Brad. And so then they called Brad. And then Brad came in.
It was like, yep,
Like a real
that's
dick.
a low number.
And there were so many people really worried about me who had like dropped other stuff to all like swarm in.
Yeah.
And they weren't all there when I said he was my brother. And so he came in and definitely seemed like he was being such an asshole in front of everybody because he was trying to be fun. But
so now they're like checking off that you're in an abusive relationship too.
they're like, so we have to write up Nurse Brad. We don't know what fucking came in over him.
Your brother gets fired, you can't breathe, and your mom's like getting one phone call at this.
Yeah. And so, they give me all the medicine and stuff. They usually just knock me out because I'm like but they have to give you so much pain medicine because if I'm in too much pain to take a deep breath, then I'm getting worse. And so they have to like give me enough medicine that like I won't realize how hard it is to take a deep breath. So I'm like fucked up.
Yeah.
And Jefferson Hospital, I love them dearly, but man, oh man, people stop going to the ER if it is not an emergency. We have urgent care for a reason. I typically will be in between being in the hospital, in the ER, and getting sent upstairs to like be admitted, and like now I'm there for a while, maybe a couple hours. I was in the ER for like 28 hours.
What is
full 2 nights?
Like, what were some things you saw that were not worth being in the ER for?
I mean, I couldn't explain it as much as Brad could because he sees it every day because he's a nurse in the ER. But like the amount of things that I have seen, especially during COVID, was so frustrating when I would be so sick and I'd see somebody in there and this is an emergency, but they'd be clearly complaining about COVID symptoms. And then the nurses, every single person, did you get vaccinated? No. And it's like, then I should be allowed to go ahead of you. I'm sorry, to a certain extent. But it doesn't work like that. And I mean, I see people who are there because like
How I feel about motorcycle helmet rules. Like if you opt out of wearing a helmet, why do you get
our medical care?
Smushed.
Yeah.
Why do you get to bump up the line for your dumb mistake?
Wear a helmet, you get squished.
You sign off. Got squished. My fault.
I know the risks. And so, I mean, I see people who are there for like stuff when they know they're going to wait, like they hurt their arm or something. But you see people who are just there who were like, oh man, I just have like a headache or something. Or like clearly they just don't.
No part of me ever thinks about going to the hospital.
Yeah, but there's people who once you get in the habit of that.
Knock on wood, I will say even when you're describing like when you get the flu, I was like, I maybe get sick for 24 hours once a year. And not to brag, but I also never admit that I'm ill. Like
yes,
I'll,
same.
I'll never be like if someone's like, how are you feeling? I'll be like, fine. Like I'm always fine.
What are you applying?
Yeah, they're like, your snot coming out of your eyeballs. Please go home. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
I like literally lost my voice one year, like in the middle of a performance. And, like it was my voice was going in and out, almost as if the mic was cutting, and I was like, oh, just must be something in the air here.
You're like, this venue really needs to work on there.
Yeah, I need a humidifier. That's it. What are you talking about? But I just think about going to the hospital. Luckily, I haven't had to have like a list of things. Like, I've gone to the emergency room one time in my life, and it was because I sliced my kneecap open on something. And I got to the hospital, and they like put me in a wheelchair because truly I could see my knee. And this was like just bring me back and sew me up.
Yeah.
But then I waited 4 hours, and then my mom went up to the desk and finally was like, okay, like what are we doing here?
Yeah.
And because I truly tried to stand up and give up my wheelchair for someone who was just coughing. And my mom was like, sit the fuck down.
Yeah.
And she went up and they were like, oh, we spelled her name wrong. And then when we fixed it, she got bumped to the bottom of the list.
Like as if it was a new input. Yeah.
And my mom was like, since when is that my daughter's problem? Her like knee is open in like around a bunch of sick people. It can't be great. So then they brought me back and they went to like, it's the only time I've ever been in. They went to numb my knee, but it was so open they just poured the shit in.
Right, because the nerve is like already there.
Yeah, they just she looked. She was like, "There's nowhere I can even shoot this in because it was like open."
What you don't know is that when you were in the wheelchair and you were going to give it up to somebody who was coughing.
Yeah. You?
It was me. And
no,
that was when
I think it was someone in a motorcycle accident.
No, it was me.
Oh, this is our sliding doors.
It was me. I'm telling you. And we crossed paths, and that was like when the movie started of our life. Oh. And then we've been doing our own thing. This. And then we came back, and then we re-met.
Yeah.
And then one day our story will end with like
And a
me
hospital
about
lobby.
to die, giving you my wheelchair and being like, it's your chair now, kid. And then
I just pop a wheelie. That's it. I'm going off the ramp is the end of the movie just for no reason.
and you pop a wheelie and it's in slow motion. You look so fucking cool. And then it says like, all right.
But the video's behind a paywall on OnlyFans.
Remember to subscribe.
Yeah.
Yes. So the amount of people who just go to the ER for things that absolutely should be urgent care, like things that are, and you can look up, go on your urgent care website. It will tell you everything that they will do for you. You will be so much happier if you go to urgent care.
We live obviously very different lives in the sense because like I was not even aware really of urgent cares till college.
That's insane to me.
And well, because I'm
going to get married at an urgent care.
Well, that's what I mean. I don't understand. It's like between going to a CVS and the hospital. It's like meeting in the middle is what I presume to be an urgent care.
It is.
I think everyone that gets like mildly sick is such a pussy that I don't think about urgent cares. It's like if your arm's broken, hospital.
Yes, agreed.
If you have a cold that feels really like a cold, urgent care.
So hospital used to be for stuff like broken arm, but now they were like the intention being, what if we can take some of what floods the ER that can be done, basically could be done at a doctor's appointment, but the issue is your doctor can't always see you immediately. So what if we made like a doctor's office, but that was open 24 hours?
So urgent care can like put you in a splint and you come into
100%. They will give you a cast. They can do x-rays at urgent care. Like they can do anything that is not, you need an IV.
So if you're not positive, you go to an urgent care. Like
Totally.
if you're like,
I get sent from urgent care to the ER all the time, but at least I tried.
Yeah.
Because I don't want, and also you'll be happier because your wait time is like a quarter of the time.
Mm-hmm.
People get in such a bad mood at a certain point. Everyone's irritable in the ER waiting room. People are screaming, especially in Center City, Jefferson. I have so much respect for the front desk people there because
don't know how they do that.
And I mean, honestly, a lot of people, granted, my brain gets so confused by the fact that when you are in the hospital, they have these signs that are like in your room. They're like, on the day you're being discharged, you will be sent home. It's like a hotel. You'll be being sent home by 11 a.m. That's checkout time, basically. So tell your ride accordingly. And I get it, but in my brain, I'm like, who would want to stay a minute later than, like, I'm begging to get out when I'm there, right? But my mom is always like, because she works in human services, and she's like, if it's July, and here is air conditioned, and home is not, and here has 3 square meals and water and ice and all of these things and TV and Wi-Fi and home does not, of course people, and so there's also a level of like, it's like how people when it's like freezing cold or super hot, like try to get hit by cars, like lightly so they can or people like try to get arrested so they can go to jail because the conditions are so much better than the street. So I do get it. I have a level of understanding about it, but as somebody when I'm like, I feel like my heart is racing. I'm like suffocating. And I see that there are people who are being asked what's wrong and they're trying to come up with something on the spot. Like,
have you tried trying to get hit by a car? Maybe you'll get serviced faster.
If I got hit by a car, it would explode because of my oxygen.
Oh.
And it would make probably national news.
But
if not, definitely local, but I'm confident.
See, that's an accidental squish that you should get bumped up to the top of the ER.
That's one of the occupational hazards of wearing oxygen is could get squished, could blow up. But yeah, so if you go to urgent care, if you are not positive that what is happening to you is a straight up emergency, go to fucking urgent care. There are so many. Because they can also
handle most like first degree emergencies.
Correct. Yeah. And if you go to urgent care and then they
slice your hand up with a knife. Urgent care?
Urgent care, yes. Oh my God.
Stitch you up?
Yeah. Unless you cut something off. And even then they probably still could. But urgent care doctors are just regular doctors who got sick of working in ERs and want some more stability.
I guess my only urgent care vibe is urgent care, right?
Vibe is urgent care.
I just went there for all my COVID testing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Vibe is great.
But it's the same thing, like full doctor's office.
Yes. And there are so many urgent cares. And there's only in any city 3 ERs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is it like an insurance thing? Do most like urgent cares? Not that you need to know this or
no,
I could Google it.
Anywhere that would cover an ER covers urgent care. People just get so dramatic because most people never get hurt or sick. So the smallest thing happens and this is a stone cold emergency. Right. And it's you have to remember that, yes, your body is designed to make you think something's up, get help. But it does not, just because it feels like an emergency does not mean it is.
Well, we're definitely living in the world of like an emergency for me and is an emergency for all. Like
Yes,
as soon as
yeah.
someone like hits their funny bone, they're like, emergency room, me, only person that's ever been hurt today. Like, no, like me, for instance, like if I got hurt, I wouldn't think urgent care first. Like if I got in a car accident and like felt like I had back pain or something. I guess that's a bad example because I would never go to the doctor.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking like, okay, shut my finger in the car door. I wouldn't think like, let me go to Vibe and sit there and wait for the like people who.
Yeah. That's why like it's basically anything that could happen to you that is like musculoskeletal or the flu or a cold or like anything where you just need oral medicine or physical medicine. If you do not need to have medicine going through your veins, get out of there.
It's funny,
Leave
like
it for the big leagues, which
how
is me.
people like the what is it? The flight or what is the response? Why am I blanking on
Oh,
the word?
fight or
Fight
flight.
or flight. My stepdad being a doctor is also like weighed in on like what transpires like for me to go to a hospital doctor. We had a neighbor one time when we were younger knock on our door in a snowstorm. Kid his lip is split in the middle.
Fuck yeah.
He went sledding, faced through a fence.
Idiot.
Small kid. And like the parents just were like, should we take him somewhere?
Yeah.
And my stepdad was like, I'm not sure why you're here right now and not on your way.
His jaw is open.
Just like his lip, but enough that it was like.
Right, it needs to be sewn up. And again, that's the thing that if urgent care were around then, so much shit that as kids we think of as like either doctor or you said CVS Minute Clinic.
It's like minute clinic, 10-minute clinic ER.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So urgent care is if you do not, I'm not even sponsored by urgent care, but I would love to be sponsored
You kind of are.
by Vibe Urgent Care.
And by sponsored, I mean you give them all your money.
I give them, oh my God, yeah. I'd love for Vibe Urgent Care to sponsor us, but go to urgent care. It's so, I have so much respect.
I was really impressed with Vibe, especially during the pandemic.
It's fancy. It's also way nicer than the ER. They have a little coffee machine.
Maybe that's why I liked it.
Okay, yeah. Like it is upscale ER because you are theoretically like weeding out all the people who are trying to, because you can't get, this is kind of fucked up. You can't get pain meds at all. They will never, there's no narcotics that they will give you. They have signs about it on the premises. So you're kind of also weeding out the fact that you're not going to be, like you'd be sitting in the ER and you theoretically are sitting there and they're, especially in Center City, are people who are also like going through withdrawal and are like upset and having a bad time and making it everybody else's issue, like, because they're freaking out, rightfully so. That does not have a vibe because you are just dealing with like most like just day-to-day people who just have a cold and need medicine before they go back to work. So you're also, it's way less chaotic. But you're in the ER and everyone's screaming.
Urgent care? I'm just kidding. I don't know what's happening to me. Help.
Yeah, so I'm better-ish. I'm feeling better. I'm breathing again. But I had pneumonia. That's why I was so sick, was because I had pneumonia. But we got that cleared on up, theoretically, so I'm back.
What's the theory in the theoretical?
The theory is that if they took out enough of the liquid in my lungs, I could keep breathing. And so far, I mean, it's hard to say because I'm on oxygen.
I was going to say, when does it hit you mostly next for fall? Like
when will I be sick again?
Yeah.
I'll probably be sick again in like February, if I had to guess.
Okay.
I'll probably be sick again.
President's Day weekend?
Right now I have...
do you
actually want to pull out the calendar? We could probably just schedule it.
Yep.
I can almost definitely guarantee I will be sick in February, March. Would love to start like a FanDuel betting pool on this. February, March.
And you think that's weather dependent, or you're saying like monthly?
It's just it's every couple months thing. My body, it's just going to happen. I don't really know if it's how weather dependent it is, but it's going to suck either way. So let's check back in, and then if this does happen, we'll clip it with me in February and March saying, actually, should I just pick a date?
Yeah.
I'm going to say Valentine's Day, which will be our 1-year anniversary of starting this podcast.
Oh my God.
Can you believe?
Oh my God. Don't be in the hospital. Actually, we should do it on location.
We should do
for the 1 year.
Remember when I brought you a rose on Valentine's Day?
I'll never forget it. I'm blushing now.
She's so into me.
Oh my God.
Okay, and Jamie, you were in all over. Last
when
time
you were
we
in the
recorded.
hospital?
No, I just mean like
from the time you were in the hospital. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember what I've spoken about because we had our guests here. Mm-hmm. I went to Vegas. Who knows if I talked about that?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I was gonna say we both did comedy festivals in between then, right?
Right.
And you were in Detroit.
Yes, I went Vegas to Detroit. A lovely flight. Best people.
I was gonna say
I gambled away the last amount of cash I had at the airport.
America's finest.
I really like Detroit. Have you ever been?
No, but I know that it's Motor City, right? That's their whole thing. So it's like very like
cars.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Which is cool because the car culture still stands. Like at night, like people had like spinning rims, like crazy, like mute sound systems. Like it was interesting.
Okay.
But we were walking on the street at one point. I was like, loud noises, not my thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, how is it so loud? Like, how are people not crashing?
Yeah.
As I said that, turn the corner, car crash happens.
No.
As soon as I said it out loud.
You saw one?
Yeah. Just someone like rear-ended someone, but I was just thinking, it was like, it's so loud. I know it's me being a nerd, but not even. I hate to, like, it is unsafe to drive with extremely loud music, especially bass. Like, if you can't hear while you're driving, it's extremely unsafe.
Right. It's like how it's illegal to wear headphones when you're driving, like to listen to music. Yeah.
I mean, like, it's just, there should be some, like, I understand doing that if they was like at a car show, but they're just like driving down the main avenues in Detroit. I thought it was great, like great array of food. The comedy festival was so organized, and I was like so impressed by how they did that for how most comedy things go. I knew where to be. I knew who to talk to for what.
Yep.
I knew which locations they had meals. They had like, little gift bags for everybody. I thought that was all really well done. And I thought they had like an amazing approach of who they let into the festival.
Yes.
It's all totally different. Like people that had been doing stand-up for 6 months to 10 years, like all over.
I was thinking the same thing about the one I was at because there was a variety of kinds of comics, which you don't see a lot in terms of like there was a ventriloquist comic, there was there was like 2 musical comics. Most of us were just stand-up.
Yeah.
But I was like,
most of what I saw was straight stand-up.
Yeah, but I was like, that is actually a very impressive level of curating that you don't usually get to do. How often do you ever see somebody doing?
Luckily me, never. If you're about to talk about puppets.
I will say I think maybe it's the theater kid in me who's like impressed by the magic of it.
Yes, I'm impressed by
And it's a skill. Like
Yes.
I was impressed by anybody's ability to not move their mouth and sound.
I'm so bad at vocal things that
Same, I'm so
singing
bad
to
at impressions.
From that, like when I watch anybody do something like that, beatboxing, oh boy, if I could find this video, I don't think I could post it, but in like middle school, I wanted to be made, and I said I wanted to be made into a beatboxer. That was my...
Did it happen?
Yeah. No, but God bless my mother. She's always so supportive of any like crazy thing I wanted to do. And like, if I found that video, I think I would burst into flames.
I would love to watch you beatbox though.
No, I couldn't. That was what I wanted to be made into.
Yeah.
I don't even think I pretended to beatbox. I think I was just like, I want to be made. Like, did the whole like, and I was like, what is beatboxing? What was that going to even help me? Like, it's not even like a skill. Like, who's like name a famous beatboxer?
Okay, but I was
besides like rappers that also beatbox.
Okay, but I was gonna say, I think of the time period in which you're referring to, I can see thinking as a kid that beatboxing was a more viable
like Busta
career.
Rhymes would like call me and be like, I need you on this track right now.
Get
Please
discovered.
leave Richboro Middle School to come to Compton and record this with me. And I was like, bet.
He's gonna be in the studio like, you guys, I'm serious, she's good. Like,
it is
she
something
is
that I
so
truly like a lot of most of my family can sing, and like just certain vocal things I am impressed with, like, and even puppetry, as much as I was kidding, like there are things like when people fully commit to any skill.
Agreed.
Impressive.
And I also am always impressed by, because like one of my things about comedy that I get on my like a high horse about is I get very frustrated when people are not willing to be embarrassed, because that is part of the contract of being a performer, is like, if you're not willing to like commit and fail, and you just want to go up there and be like super casual, and if it doesn't land, you get to kind of be like, oh, that wasn't even like meant to be funny anyway.
That worked earlier, you guys.
Yeah,
like
that wasn't even
crowd.
the punchline. Or if it does kill, then you're like, oh, I'm so glad you guys liked that joke. But if it doesn't, you're like, that wasn't even the joke. And I really appreciate when I see people who are like so clearly like honest to God performers who are willing to just fully go up there, fully commit, and if it goes well, then they deserve the glory they got. And if it does not go well, then like they knew the risk they were taking.
In the time that we haven't spoken, I for Halloween did a show at Punchline where I did dress up as another comedian.
Yep.
And that is the most out of the ordinary thing I've done for myself on stage.
Yeah.
I have no qualms against doing that. Like I'm always into trying something new or like putting myself out there that way. I just don't always see the opportunity to do it. Like there's minimal alt shows and getting in them. There's so many people that are much better at it, more experienced than I am. So I never want to like take up a space that is someone else's. But I had fun. I dressed up like Mary Catherine Gallagher, Molly Shannon's SNL character turned movie superstar. And, 5 minutes on stage, I asked Betty Smithsonian, who's hosting, to just stay on stage to, like, play. Like, the premise was everyone else did a stand-up act, which was fine. Like, she said comedian or character, so I picked Mary Catherine Gallagher because that was the first thing I remember copying when I was little. So I picked that, and everyone else did, like, a 5-minute stand-up set, and that's obviously not what the character
a
does.
Comic.
Yeah. So someone did Patrice O'Neill, someone was...
John Mulaney.
Yeah. Chappelle, like
Seth
everything.
Rogen.
Yeah, Ali Wong, like everything.
Ali Wong.
Jerry Seinfeld. So
who was Seinfeld?
Claudia.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay. I did see that.
Yeah. So mine was more playful. Like I went up and like the first thing I said to Betty was like, I thought it was a talent show audition, like not stand up. Yeah. So I just like played and like she always like freaks out and like reads a monologue. Yeah. So I just was like messing around, way more physical than I ever am on stage. And like the only way that was going to be fun for me is if I committed.
Yes. And that's what I can't stand is seeing people who are not willing to do that. And it's like, not that you need to be a performer first and then go into it. I don't want to sound like I'm like the old fashioned kind. It's like you can be a comic and still be fun and like normal, but the level of people who see it online and think like I'm just the funniest guy in the friend group. So now I can do stand up and not put anything on the line by doing it. And it's like that is the thing. I'm sure you're the same way. When I tell people, say, what do you do? And I say, I do comedy for a living. And they always say, that's the scariest job I've ever heard of because that sounds so scary to go up there. So it's like, it is, but that's part of it. Because then you've earned it when you crush, Yeah. And like when I would see, there were two people at the comedy festival who did like very non-traditional comedy. One like sang this piano song and it was like, it involved him like kind of like yelling and like getting emotional, like fake emotional, like acting and stuff. And it was very kind of Bo Burnham-y, but even less casual than Bo Burnham. It was like a more unhinged. And, it's all comics in the audience mostly. And so like everybody had a lot of respect for like thinking all of us about how like none of us were willing to go up there and do something like that, especially on the very first night. We all hadn't met each other yet. It was like the open mic before we start the festival basically. And then somebody else was doing ventriloquism with like a queer puppet, basically like a non-binary like little puppet. And it was like very funny, very like Sesame Street, but explaining basic gay stuff to people from Arizona, which is where the festival was. But again, I think all of us it got such a bigger like applause and freak out from the audience, from the comics. I think all of us took a minute to turn inwards and be like, do I even have what it takes to ever do something? Yeah. Not that would ever fit my style, but something that bold. Do you actually think it's like, I don't want to speak for you, but you don't strike me as someone that's ever been scared to get on stage. No. So like when I don't ever have stage fright. So when people say that like that's the scariest thing, I think just even the description, like we both mean something other than scary. Yes.
Producer and friend Neil Wood here. Brief commercial break.
Hey, hold right there. Don't dare skip this. This is an important message. Me and my boy Albert Davis, we want to tell you about our podcast, Seriously Dad. Albert, why should they listen?
Because it's the best podcast in the world. It's by two comedians who are dads, and you know what we're talking about? Being dads. It's called Seriously Dad. Check us out on social media at Seriously Dad Podcast and
anywhere you get your podcast. That's where we're at. We're funny. We got some great guests coming our way. We cover the topics you want to hear. Check us out.
Scary. Yes. Like, it's just all or nothing is more what it feels like.
Right. And the idea of just standing, I think for most people, the idea, you can tell a joke in a group And most people disguise jokes as stories, right? Like you're telling a joke at the dinner table. I mean, we've both worked in restaurants. That's when you see it the most, right? The person at the dinner table running at the head of the table, crushing. But they still get the get out of jail free card of kind of, if it doesn't, the little thing they threw in didn't crush, just keep going. Because you're not there because the social contract is I'm going to make you laugh. The social contract is we're going to have dinner, and if I happen to make you laugh, even better.
Yeah.
But when you go up there and do stand-up, you don't get the, oh, I got to surprise everyone by being funny. It's like, no, we're expecting you to be funny. So
Yeah.
do it or don't. And you don't get the, like, if that didn't work, I'll just keep pushing through. All I was trying to do was tell a story. No, you weren't. Now you're admitting, I do think I have what it takes. I do think I'm funny enough. So if you don't, then whatever. And I mean, as we know, and as I learn every time I teach a stand-up comedy workshop, is that most people are just the funniest person in the sales department at work.
The amount of people I've had tell me they want to try comedy, and then if I say, yeah, I usually just say, just start writing. Like, no one's stopping you.
Yep.
But if they mean it a little bit more, I'm like, go for it.
Yeah.
Like, you can write something, run it by me if that's what you feel comfortable doing. 10 out of 10 times, I give them the slightest feedback, and they say, never mind, never try it.
Yep. Because most people can't. And like, while I hated my transition of, I hated being an actor first and then going into stand-up, the transition was very easy because I already came from the world of the most critical business you've ever been in your fucking life.
Right.
Like, there is no shortage of getting notes. And at least in stand-up, they're just about your jokes. In acting, they're about your body and your nails. Like, you go into something and they're like, it's just there's just something about your personality. You're ugly.
I sent you
okay, cool.
I don't know if you saw, I sent you a TikTok last night where it was like, let's make the comment section backhanded compliments when a cast list goes up.
I did, yes.
Okay. And that's like what I was thinking of when you just said that, of like, because even when people compliment you for stand-up, a lot of times it's backhanded.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's a lot of the
no
I
idea.
could never, or like a lot of the like I would never, like where it almost sounds like they're looking down on what you're doing, but like trying to make it sound like a positive.
Yeah. So, and then going to something like a festival is such a like kind of refreshing. I'm sure you felt the same way where you leave and you feel more inspired than when you got there and more excited. And
This blanket is cozy, but I'm slipping off the couch. That's why I keep readjusting.
Neil, can you catch her? Neil.
Sorry, yes. The festival is so interesting for that, and like what everyone's goals and dreams are out of a festival. Like I had 2 goals for myself this year, and getting into a festival is one of them. It's not something I had prioritized before. Glad I did it. It was interesting.
Well, earlier this year, maybe even like later last year, you and I sat down at lunch
Shared
or brunch,
festivals.
and we just went over every festival that we know of and shared a doc, and we're like, these are, I mean, and you have to apply when you do comedy, you have to apply to, 50 festivals. If you get into one, that's awesome, like depending on what you're reaching for. But it's a lot of applying to the same ones every year with no hearing back. So like, that was a very hard goal of like, I'm not leaving this year without having gotten into one.
Yeah, and it's so funny because like no matter what, the goals are for myself, because like of course I met someone recently who like asked me why I was in Detroit. I said I was doing a comedy festival, and I said, they were like, which comedy festival? And I was like, oh, like the Motor City Comedy Festival, is Detroit's comedy festival. They immediately went, oh, I've only heard of the big ones. And
What a badass thing to say, though.
So
That
cool.
is such a cool line. That
So
person
cool.
is definitely, I mean, obviously more successful than, was it Dave Chappelle who said this to you?
It was.
It was Dave Chappelle.
We were getting coffee.
I forgot that Dave Chappelle was, you guys.
Can you imagine? I just whipped out a Dave Chappelle impression. So part of my brain thought I could do it, and I almost did it, and like I would need to cut it immediately, but I almost tried. I'm not going to. But yes, I got coffee.
I think we're all on the edge of our seat a little bit.
So am I, because of the blanket.
Neil, can you get her? I'm serious.
Like, it's
put,
not
like,
even near me. It's just I'm just slipping. It's
like a net or a basket
I think
down
like
here?
summer's over and I'm back to wearing my full sweats.
Yes,
and I
and you-
can't. I'm slipping. Caught me slipping.
All summer, we've had the luxury of our thighs absolutely
Just
sticking to
rubbing
the vinyl parts of this couch, and then us standing up and ripping off like Velcro.
Now I'm just floating. Yeah, so someone said that to me, and I was just like, okay, you know, everything means some different things to different people, and like that person obviously said what they said, intentionally or not, trying to like dig at me. Yeah, I heard it, and I just was like, you know, if that makes you feel better.
They
like,
needed
whatever.
to say it more than you needed to not hear it. So it's like, if this is what's going to make your day, man, good for you.
Well, yeah, and
Was it a man or a woman?
a woman?
Really?
Oh yeah.
Interesting.
Can
we bleep and can you tell me who?
Yeah, it's irrelevant. A friend of a friend. I'll tell you after.
Okay.
Just because I don't want to cut it out.
Heard. Yeah. Heard.
Yeah, and they said that, and I just was like, yeah. I was like, I'm doing my best, is like what I said. Mm-hmm. Like, what the fuck? Like, am I supposed to say to that? I was like...
Yeah. Last year I was not in a festival. This year I'm in a festival.
Well,
Next year I will be in another
don't know
one.
even, like, they know so little that they don't even know that they're, like, belittling you. Like, I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt and, like, say that. But it's also, like, even people in comedy don't know what a bigger festival is or, like, what that consists of. I was like, I went to an amazing festival in a major American city I'd never been to. Mm-hmm. Got to spend the weekend there. My friends from Chicago came. I had a great time, had great shows, got new venues, got to network with comedians from all over the country.
That's the thing. You meet people you would never get to normally meet unless you're doing a don't tell in a different city.
Yeah. So for someone to just... Well, and the other thing that's hard is, like, the accessibility to the festivals. Like, you have to pay to get yourself there.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, like, even if you get into one, like, you're still paying. And they, like, made it really nice where it's, like, comedians open their homes to people. And, like, all, but I'm not staying with a rando.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
That is nice, actually. We didn't have... So the deal with the one that I did... So you were in the Motor City Comedy Festival. I was in the Big Pine Comedy Festival in Arizona. And they did the thing where they were like, here's a discount for the hotel that's, like, in the city, like, where you can just, like,
Holiday
walk
Inn
across the
Express
street.
of Flagstaff.
Well, I wish it was that because it was a very fancy hotel. So it was a lot
weird.
but because it was a West Coast show, like it's in Phoenix, most of the comics were LA and San Fran and all of that. And so, like, they were people with more money in general. And so they were people who were all staying there, and I stayed in a different hotel because I got those Marriott points from all the traveling.
Let's go.
Like, you know, a couple blocks away. But still, even then, it was this, like, weird little social economy of, like, which place are you? Oh, you're not staying at our hotel?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true. It made it way nicer community, like, with the festival, having that open.
Yeah.
And yeah, that would stink. That would have been really hard. Because even, like, the people I knew, like, some people had rental cars, some people didn't.
I was going to say, and there were people who were just staying in Airbnbs or staying with friends who were like, oh, I guess I missed the after party at the bar last night. You know, all the little networking things that aren't that technically important, but you don't know what you don't know, and any networking thing could be the thing that is the connection.
I will say the one day I was, like, sick this year was me flying Vegas to Detroit. Yeah. I just had been in a casino for 6 days straight. Then I was hiking every morning. Yeah. So I just wanted to feel something. Yeah. But it's like the altitude, dry air, like then being in a casino, cigarettes for a week.
Just hearing the word buffalo yelled every couple seconds by that machine.
Just nuts. And then, so I started to feel like I was like having like allergies, but I was like, no, I gotta suck it up because I have to like perform it. So I like, as soon as I got to Detroit,
urgent care.
Josh met me at the airport, and I was like, I have to go to CVS. Like, he met me, he greeted me at my gate with a banana. Like, he was like, have this. And then we, like, took an Uber to the hotel, and he's got us checked in, and I went to CVS and just, like, this
got
is
it
me
all.
Gathering everything in my arms.
Liquid IV, NyQuil.
Truly, everything to just knock it out of me. But then I was like, I need to hang with everyone for the first, because it was like the first night, and like for me, the festival had started the day before. But shout out to my cousin who got married on a Wednesday. My week was different.
Very cool, very considerate for everybody.
People do what they want, you know. And so I went to the festival a day late. Yeah. So when I got there, I went to check in and everything, and totally fine. But I would have loved to hang or see a show the first night or whatever. But I got my badge and like welcome bag and said hi to a few people. But I also don't want to introduce myself when I'm not feeling good. But when I got there, I like introduced myself and they're like, "Oh, we're doing headshots upstairs." And I was like, I'm good. Like, I appreciate the offer. They were doing free headshots for everyone, which was so nice. And I was like, I'm all set. And the guy looked at me. He's like, we're really trying to get everyone to do one. And I was like, when I'm sick or tired, my left eye closes. You can see our eyes are both very round. When I'm sick or even slightly tired, this eye always like a doll. So in the photos, you like literally I'm smiling, but like this eye is like half closed for sure.
If you have a safety pin, you could probably just pin it right up.
Fuck, I didn't have one. I'm gonna super glue next time. But I had to get headshot. Like that was like nice. And so that all that to say is like that night I was like not social at all. And I felt like worried that I was like missing stuff.
Totally. Oh,
so then the second night but I felt better. Tried to push it the second night. I went to the panel during the afternoon and then but they were doing more activities that I didn't necessarily feel the need to be super social for. And this is like once I heard some of the questions people were asking, I was like, oh, I've definitely been in comedy a little bit longer than some of the other people, which is like not a knock. It's amazing. We're all in the same place. I always think that like when you're on the same stage with something, same stage with someone, nothing matters. So it was all fine and good and I felt better, but like that was my one day of the year.
It is really like I mean, I experience a lot like the thing of like when you're feeling shitty. And I can still, there's things that I'm like, I can still physically make it, but at what cost? Because I'm not going to be
my best self.
Am I giving my best self? And is it, and I always have this conversation like in therapy, like, is it a better option? How sick am I? And is it better? Would I make a worse impression because I'm feeling so shitty and irritable and all of those things? Or is it better to just be there and give what I can? And is what I'd consider my 50%, still good? I'm holding myself to 100 or nothing, you know.
Well, definitely that one for both of us.
Yeah,
because like I think we both think we're being like meaner or more rude, and we're like being nicer than like anyone's ever been in their life.
Yeah, right. Or I feel like I'm just like, oh man, I'm just like not being as like funny and on my game, you know. But then it's like I have to remember I'm a comedian typically in the room, even if I'm not feeling well, I'm still the funnier one, you know.
Yeah, no one is putting the expectations on our presence like we do. I'm like, I can't be tired at this Friendsgiving because they are expecting top notch. Like, my friends would be grateful if I shut the fuck up for one meal.
I feel that way so much. And when I first started getting into performing, like, I would talk about that in therapy so much. Like, I don't want to attend things because of the expectation that I know I put on. Not that I put the expectation on myself, but I set the standard of like, I'm funny. But then there's times that I want to check out or clock out and not have to be funny. Like if there's, you know, I'm sure you noticed this. There's like a lull at a group hang and it just kind of gets quiet for a minute and people just sort of look over at me, like waiting for something or whatever.
Oh, I don't even wait for the look over at me. I'm going for it.
But when I'm not in the mood for it, it feels like this very like lame kind of like, okay, I guess I could say something, but also I'd love for somebody else to chime in. But also, is that a bad thing to just be the fact that like I have friends who work regular jobs and I'm a comic? Is that a bad thing for me to contribute being funny? With
the holiday season coming, which is a lot of pressure on us.
Please check in on your funny friends because the expectation.
But actually, so Josh's birthday is coming up.
Yes, it is.
And we're doing a family dinner in which I'm meeting a lot of his family for the first time.
Okay.
Which is fine and great in a normal person's life. To be the only thing they know about me is comedy.
Yeah.
Is tough because I don't want to talk about it with everyone. I don't want to like them assume I'm funny or them to do the thing, laugh at whatever I say. Flip side, and I buried myself here by OnlyFans being my only other source of income, is like, if I'm going to be honest with these people, I have to lean into talking about comedy.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to like tell my boyfriend's like extended family about sports betting and showing off my yitties. But I like am mentally preparing for the meeting 12 people who all want to hear about comedy. Maybe they don't also. Maybe they don't know what to say at all and they just want to. I've seen it also. The flip side is like they don't want to ask me about it and they just also don't know how to get out of the conversation.
Yeah. And I love like if people can't pick up the hint when like they ask me a question, I will always ask one back about their job. And if they can't pick up the hint that I'm trying to not make this whole conversation about my career. But then there's the flip side of like you also don't want to come off like that person who's like standoffish, like, oh, I was just trying to take interest in her job and she was weird about it. But it is like when you have a job that is more interesting, it's like, my brother's an ER nurse. That's
and
another thing that people ask questions.
I was gonna say it's more that there's something to ask about. Because if someone's just like, oh, like my old job, like, oh, I'm a client success manager for like the East Coast sales of this and this. What the fuck are you gonna ask about that? Like, are your clients successful? Like, oh, how was managing that? Like, what? It's all fake. So it's like comedy. They're like, the typical, how'd you get into that? Like, am I going to be in your joke? Where are you performing next? And like,
where can I see you? Where do you play around here? Who's your favorite comic?
Yeah.
I like this person. Yeah.
I'm just going to say something outrageous and see how they react.
Like who your favorite comic is?
Yeah, I'd be like, I love Louis C.K., but like we stopped hanging out, so I'm not really sure.
He hasn't responded to any of my texts in the last couple of years.
So weird. Like I bought new plants for him and everything.
Yeah, I'm like my heroes: Bill Cosby, Aziz Ansari.
And you do like a Pete Holmes where you're like, scandal noted, but like I still love them.
But also, it's about separating the art from the artist.
And like I don't believe John Mulaney's first wife at all. Just like crazy. And then also, they have no idea what I'm saying.
Yes.
Like, people just want to ask because they think it's exciting.
And because it's a job they know about.
You do comedy? And then I say yes. Truly, when people say that, they're like, you do comedy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You could say that. Yeah.
What's next?
Yeah, and I think also just being a comedian is a job that people, I mean, even when I was an actor, and that was my answer, it's a job that people see all the time, but they don't know the ins and outs of the industry.
And more often than not, I know an insult's coming.
Yes.
Like by accident. Like I know they're about to insult me, whether it's telling me the festival I was in they don't know of because it was small, or they're going to say, I can't imagine, or like, that must be tricky.
My
like,
favorite is, and I think we talked about this before, about someone saying this to you, because I have had this before with like older people trying to be supportive, but they're being so condescending.
So mean.
When they go, I'll be like, yeah, I do stand-up comedy for a living. And they'll go, that's awesome. Keep at it. And I'm like, I do it for a living. I'm there.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm like, you don't want to be that person. Like, usually I underplay it, but when someone says shit like that.
keep it going.
Like,
I'm like, oh, thank God. I was about to quit. When you asked me what I did for work, I was about to just call it off.
Right. When I said I do it for a living, I mean, I do open mics once a week.
Yeah.
That's it. And typically I will underplay when people ask you, because I also don't want to seem like I'm big timing people.
Right.
You know,
but also their idea of me doing it for a living is they only picture Netflix specials. They don't know like the college circuit's a lot of money. They don't know like headlining, corporate, whatever.
Yeah. And just some like older, it's always an older guy saying something like, keep at it and you'll get there. And I'm like, typically if they said something else like, oh, that's amazing, I'd be like, thanks, I'm working towards it, you know. But if they say something like that, I'm like, I'm fucking headlining. I don't know. I'm gonna be a bitch about this because I'm not like I'm not a 9-year-old
like
saying
anything
a dream.
art related, they think you're struggling. Like you're like, oh, I'm a painter, and they're like, oh.
They go to like shake your hand, they pass you $20.
Yeah.
Look, times are tough. We got
It'd be like I always use accountant as like my like jokey job or just like reference point when I'm talking about jobs. But if someone was like, oh, what do you do for work? You're like, I'm an accountant. You're like, keep at it. Like you would never.
I know. That's what
I'm a junior accountant at this firm. You're like, good luck.
You'll get there. You will get there.
Keep trying.
That's how I feel about when people say like, okay, the fact that our job, and I had this when I was an actor too, having to preface by saying professional in front of it. Or adding the word for a living at the end. Like, I can't say I'm a comic without people being like, oh, and what do you do? And the fact that nobody has to be like, I'm a professional doctor.
Or like, is
I'm a
that
doctor
the
for a
only
living.
way you make your money?
Right. What else do you do? Do you bartend? And to have to say nobody else in any other career has to preface that what they're doing is their job.
And also, how many people bartend and do other jobs?
Yeah.
Everybody.
How many teachers are bartenders?
I'm picking up shifts at restaurants. I'll talk about this. Where are we at? Yeah, people are doing whatever they can.
Sorry, I didn't know we had a stopwatch going. What's the stopwatch for?
It's okay. I was also just taking notes, so I just set it up for around 50 minutes.
What if we were in the middle of something good?
Nothing happens. Nothing happens.
So
when
I was in the
expires.
middle of sobbing, talking about how sick I've been, and that went off.
I'd be like,
you know how bad you'd feel?
I don't think he would. Now what? We just
I just need to know when this is done.
End.
I guess my question is, I'd like to use the last 2 minutes to find out what Neil has against the sick community.
Neil.
So much.
Neil,
So
are you
many
mic'd up
things.
while you say derogatory things?
Neil,
So many things.
say it with your
happening,
chest. What do you have against cystic fibrosis?
There's too many of them.
Too many.
Too many people with
Fibrosis?
cystic
You heard
fibrosis.
it. You heard it here, folks. Okay, sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, Jamie, but
No, we were just
some
talking
man
about,
is putting a numerical amount on how long we can talk to each other.
Neil, what do you do for work?
Yeah. Sorry. We wait. What's the thing when women talk not about a man in a movie?
Bechdel test.
The Bechdel test. We were passing the Bechdel test for too long. We had to fucking
Yeah.
talk about Neil for a minute.
To be fair, we weren't passing it because we were criticizing him from the jump.
And we talked about Josh.
Who?
Exactly.
Josh A.
Sorry, you were saying.
Oh, sorry. You were saying.
No, you were saying.
No, we were saying.
Neil is saying.
We were just saying that
Yes,
people
being
just
a professional.
asking accidentally derogatory is dramatic.
Yeah.
Accidentally negative questions.
Yeah.
And then like assuming you can't make money off stuff. But it's like, if you're just interested, I think about it like, okay, Bill in the typewriter shop.
Uh-huh.
That is the only time where I see people walk in and look a man dead in the face and say, how do you make a living?
Yes.
Like people will walk in and be like, how are you doing this? Like I never
I
see that
agree.
anywhere else. And it seems like an art, it seems so unstable to people who are not involved in it. And then when Bill starts talking, you're like, oh, this is a ton of work. It's like, that's what it is. Like people don't think you do actual work.
Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, you get on stage for 10 minutes and you're like, oh, actually, no, I've been painstakingly agonizing about these jokes for hours, days, years.
Years, decades.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What's your favorite, real quick, before we cut, what is your favorite answer when people ask how they can support you?
What do I say?
Yeah, like when people ask like how they can support your comedy.
I either say come to a show.
Mm-hmm.
If they're like a normal person, I say come to a show, or I say Venmo me.
Yeah.
I say cash. Usually if someone asks me that question to my face, I'll say
Yeah.
cash. Because they think it's funny, but I'm serious. Like it's a win-win.
Yeah, because I never know what to say, but the more I get asked that, the more I realize, like, and I've heard other comics answer it better.
Yeah.
And the more I
I
realize,
say
like,
check my website, come to a show,
Yeah.
or cash.
follow me on social media is
Yeah.
always my answer. I'm like, it costs you $0 to follow me. And if you want to understand, like what is a better, what would I prefer right now? $20 in hand or 2,000 followers? In the long run, 2,000 followers is so much more important and effective for like how many
Well,
more
20
jobs
is low.
I will get. Right. But like how many more jobs you will get.
Right.
By forever having a certain number, and that keeps building. And like that is such the dollar amount that I'm sure you could do the math on and figure out behind followers is crazy.
I'll take, what if it's $2,000 or 2,000 followers right now? Someone walks in, handshakes you. Because I'm taking the money. Because I could go
Okay.
travel a couple places.
2,000
and meet people.
Yes, $2,000 or 2,000 followers. I would pick the money. $2,000 or 10,000 followers. Right now, I would really want the money, but I feel like if I was in a better place financially, I would know the responsible thing for my career would be, unfortunately, the 10,000 followers, which I
Yeah.
hate, but that is the case.
No,
10,000
absolutely. Because if I
real-life
reach out
human
to
followers.
people, if I had over 10,000 followers at this point, people just see that. Even other comedians, like if you go to like feature for them or something, they see that and they're like, oh,
Right.
got it.
Like if I had 10,000 more
Something
followers.
clicked.
Yes.
Whether it's comedy, whether it's how they market themselves, or whether it's what they look like, something clicked here.
Whether it's how sick they are,
Yeah.
which is what I'm trying to do. Yeah.
Which is like, people, how does Kirsten not have hundreds of thousands of followers? Like, she's gonna die. It's so annoying. Like, I'm trying to ride these coattails, and like, my time is ticking.
I
now.
don't know how else to say this lightly, so I'll just say it. Stop donating to the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation and
It's not
start
getting cured.
Venmoing at terminally_chill.
I took it too far.
No,
It's
you're
getting
right.
cured, but it's not getting cured for her.
Not for me, baby.
So
All the new life expectancies that they post, every time they do it, they have to send out a thing that's like, by the way, this is for kids born after
it's
2019.
like an asterisk. Like,
Yeah. If you were born before a certain point, thank you for your work.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stop donating to the larger cause and start donating to me personally.
Yeah.
I'm not going to keep asking every.
And truly, like, organically, you're having more and more people believe in supporting you that
Yep.
are like putting you in spotlights. That like you're growing. We're both like growing organically to ourselves. Like, I am not ever going to be someone that could sign off on something I don't fully believe in.
100%. Yeah.
And I've been seeing that a lot in a certain town in Texas, and other places
What
too.
is this
Obviously,
in reference to?
I don't know. Like, there's just certain things where people don't commit
The
to
Fort
themselves.
Worth scene is insane right now.
Yeah, San Antonio popping
Oh my
off.
God, the new comedy mecca,
Yeah.
babe.
But just like I like talking followers or money, like on a lower scale, take the money to go travel, and that always makes me feel more progression in my comedy. But yeah, if someone could just walk in and be like, here's 10,000 actual followers who will go to
engage.
shows. Yeah, engage, go to shows. Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah, and you think about how much that turns into in terms of getting booked at venues, and it is the most embarrassing part
I
of our
just
job.
want to do
I hate
comedy.
it. I wanna tell fucking
jokes.
jokes.
I just want to do comedy, and like it's getting really hard to get into clubs and everything because people are doing really well in things that aren't stand-up comedy. That's getting them stage time in comedy clubs because there's no in between theaters and comedy clubs.
Yeah.
Except you could look and support your local independent theaters who would gladly have you if you're bringing in an audience.
And which would be a lot of the stuff that I see when I see TikTokers do headline shows is more of what I would call from a theater, what I would call a one-person show.
Yeah.
Like, and I wouldn't say it's as, and that is still kind of insulting to what it is to make a one-person show because that is an insanely long, that is a 10-year process as well. But I would say it's more so like a night with blank.
Yes,
You know?
a fireside chat.
Yes.
Fine.
And I think there's somebody going to Soul
Jaleel
Joel's.
White.
Jaleel.
Is that Urkel's name?
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Am I being
Jaleel White.
racist?
No, it is Jaleel White.
Google, please. Please, because the other day
It's Richard Jenkins.
I mixed up
You
two
piece of
former
shit.
athletes who happened to be black and bald and could not have been further apart on sport, looks, anything. But I just saw like a commercial, like one of those infomercials, and Josh was like, "Oh, look, it's so and so," and I was like, "That's so and so," and he was like, "Are you joking right now?" And I was like, "Oh,
Yep.
oh thank
Jaleel
God."
White.
It's Jaleel White. Yes, but that's exactly
I
what
mix
I
up
mean.
white people too.
Yeah.
I just want to
It's
get
easy,
that
yeah.
out there.
But that's exactly what I mean. That's a great thing to not try to market it as I'm doing stand up. If it's going to be a night of stories about your past jobs, all of
things
that,
people wanna see and
love
hear,
that shit
great.
anyway.
And
But
Soul Joel's also doesn't market itself fully as comedy. They're like an event venue space. They have comedy.
but they also have an organ player
And they have 14,000 rooms.
also have swing dance.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, producer Neil. Looks like we ran out of time in this episode. The bell tolled. Don't worry though, part 2 coming soon. Subscribe now to the Dying Up Here podcast at Dying Up Here Pod on YouTube. And make sure to follow Kirsten and Jamie on all the stuff. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. Hey, how you doing? This is Neil Wood, one of the co-owners of Drop 10 Media Network and who helps run Biggest Little Comedy. You can check out all the other stuff we do at drop10.com. We've got podcasts, live comedy shows, and so much more. Go over there, support your favorite podcasts, follow them, subscribe. We appreciate it, and we're 100% DIY. Just a bunch of creatives trying to make it in this, and give us some feedback. We always enjoy a little feedback. Thanks.
This has been a Drop Tent Media production.